channel is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Watching 100 Movies. I'm Christiana Ellis.
I'm Mike Mateen.
And tonight we continue our 2026 Oscar movie marathon with discussion of two more of the Best Picture nominees, Marty Supreme and Train Dreams. Maybe we'll touch briefly on others if we feel like we run out of stuff to say about those two. We'll see. But that's the plan. So,
All right.
yeah. All right. So, with that said, which one of those would you like to tackle first?
Uh, don't matter to me what order are they in on the spreadsheet. Let's
I
just go
feel
with
like I
Marty
have
Supreme.
more to say about Marty Supreme.
I feel like I do too. So maybe let's just talk about Train Dreams,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then we can see where Marty Supreme's conversation takes us.
Sure. So, Train Dreams is, of course, nominated for Best Picture. And I'm just scrolling down the list here. I think it has a few other things. It has Best Adapted Screenplay for Clint Bentley and Greg Quidar. And Best Original Song for the titular Train Dreams is the name of the song. And Best Cinematography. And I think that might be it. I'm
Yep.
trying to remember. Yeah, so Train Dreams has 4 nominations, so I think I did miss one. Do we have? Did I say? Huh. I
It's picture,
yeah. So screenplay, picture.
screenplay, song, and cinematography. That's it.
Oh yeah, okay. I did. So I can't count is the problem. So in any case, this was a movie. It's a Netflix movie, so it's you can watch it pretty easily there if you have that service. Um, and that was how I watched it. This wasn't one that I was able to see in the theater, but I watched it, in fact, when I was home at my mom's house over the holidays. How about you?
Uh, I just watched it on Netflix at my house with
Sure,
my
sure, yeah.
watched it with my wife, who's gotten a renewed interest in watching these Best Picture nominations with me.
Yeah,
So that's been
nice.
fun. But I think that experience will probably lead to maybe part of what we discuss is like this movie's fine,
Hmm.
but it's not one that really grabs you. At least not me.
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting.
pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cinematography. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
I think what it makes me think of a little bit, and this is something I imagine once we've both seen Hamnet and we can discuss that. I one of the things that I've been saying about Hamnet is that it feels the impact that it had on me felt so sort of precisely calibrated to me that I can understand why it's not going to hit everybody in quite the same way. Not that it's like about things that I'm specifically involved in, but just somehow it just really got me in a very, very specific way. And I get why it's not going to have the same effect on everybody else. And Train Dreams feels similarly, except that it feels like I'm the one that's left out a little bit. Like, I liked it, but I've heard people talk about it being extremely powerful and just very moving. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I could see how it could be, but I didn't really feel that way myself.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. So I don't want to speak too much on Hamnet yet because I haven't seen it, but I've
Mm-hmm.
started.
Yeah.
And so that's funny that you say that having seen all of Hamnet because just what I have seen the first 30 minutes or whatever that I started watching, it felt very similar in look and pacing to
Yeah.
Train.
There's
It very deliberate,
yeah,
very
kind of a
pretty.
dreamy,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I think that the places where you could compare them. Certainly, I think there's lots of places where you could kind of look at them as attempting perhaps slightly similar things. Um, the just in terms of looking at what the people involved have done before. The director of this, Clint Bentley, was also one of the writers for Sing Sing from a couple of years ago,
Mm,
which was a very good movie about some people in Sing Sing prison forming a theater program there.
yeah.
That's a great movie. I recommend it. I don't really know anything else that he's done. It's kind of a short list of things that I don't recognize otherwise. And then we've got Joel Edgerton
Mhm.
as the lead. You've also got Felicity Jones in there. You got uh, I'm I'm wanting to say the name because I know him. William H. Macy. That's who I was looking
William H.
for.
Macy. Yep.
Yes, as a notable sort of like guest star sort of role in there. You want to talk a little bit like what's Train Dreams about?
Uh, it's the plot is than less what it's about than what the movie is about.
Yeah.
So it's about a guy who works on train tracks, right? Like building train or logging, sorry, logging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, he works in the logging industry. It's kind of a, you know, changing, not dying industry, right? And so it's going through like his transition from like seeing the older guys in the logging industry, and then the logging industry continues to change and he becomes the older guy in the logging industry.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile he's just building this kind of steadfast home life. But there's a very traumatic part of it where a fire takes down the home that he built by hand,
Mm-hmm.
and he can't find his wife and daughter.
Right. Yeah.
And through most of the film it's treated like he's continuing to look for them,
Or hope
but
that they'll come back.
or hope that they'll come back. And so he's sleeping on the patch of ground where his house burned down, thinking they're going to come back, only to kind of at the end of the film realize like now he's become the elder logging guy who's the grumpy one. And
Mm-hmm.
but still people you know kind of pay mind to, but like don't treat as seriously.
Yeah.
And that his wife and his daughter are not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, so it's very basic in kind of the steps that the movie takes, but
Yeah.
it's trying to tell a very it's trying to tell a story about like the human condition, about humility, uh dignity of work and family life, trying to understand why tragedies happen to good people. Just like it's trying to hit on that. And that's why I think you said like the same thing. Like if that hits with you, then this movie, it could be very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I like and believe in a lot of those things, and it still didn't quite hit with me, right?
Yeah.
Like it,
Like
you
I
know,
was moved. I thought it was effective. I liked it, but I wasn't like blown away.
right.
It was the sort of movie where when it was over, I said, "Oh, that was pretty good,"
Yeah.
as opposed to like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing," right? One detail I would add to your otherwise excellent summary is that he has to travel far away to do
Mm.
these logging jobs, and so he's traveling by train, which is where we get the title. But notably, the fire happens when he's away from home, so there's an element too of this feeling of like,
Guilt.
if I didn't take this job where I had to be so far away, if I had been home, maybe I could have helped them. Or, the flip side, the unspoken flip side of that coin is, or I would have died with them and I wouldn't be alone, right? But this feeling like there's a degree of guilt of like, I this is the job that I am good at and that I felt like was the best way to provide for them, but it meant that I had to miss so much and then also be gone and unable to help when this happened. And so I think
Yeah.
there's that degree where him staying there and sort of maintaining a eventually pretty irrational hope that they're going to come back, that they had actually just escaped to somewhere else and didn't return. We get the feeling that there's a degree of penance
Yeah,
involved there.
definitely. Um, there's also, to kind of go into that guilt thing of being away, like he knows he's doing a dangerous job because
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple of scenes where, you know, other loggers are killed in the
Mm-hmm.
line of duty, and there's sort of this, like a better term, like reverence for nature
Mm-hmm.
and like its power. But it's hard for him to like reconcile, like, I was the one choosing to put myself in harm's way, but yet my family was the one who ultimately paid the price from nature's power.
Mm-hmm.
And like just trying to reconcile that, like there's a lot of deep pieces to this. Like this movie is a very thinking kind of movie,
Mm-hmm.
like kind of thinking and
It's
feeling kind
certainly
of
not a
movie.
very
Yeah.
talky movie.
It's not a very talky movie. It's not a very action-packed movie. I mean, the biggest action scenes are the
Mm-hmm.
fire, the logging accidents, like everything
Mm-hmm.
else is more just kind of moving through life type scenes.
Yeah.
And so like I said, I definitely was thoughtful during this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in this movie, and I can see if all of these things clicked in you, how this could be powerful,
Yeah.
right?
The cinematography too is quite beautiful, and I
Mhm.
imagine that the people who did have the opportunity to see it on a big screen might have had an additional impact as a result of that. And that's one of the reasons why people are sometimes annoyed at Netflix for not having their movies be in theaters for very long, even when they get a theatrical release at all. But so I know, for example, that the couple of people I know who really loved Train Dreams did see it in the theater. And so I think that that might make a difference too. Especially just because, as we talked about, like one of the main strengths of the movie is just the cinematography, this just depiction of these forested landscapes and the change over time of, what things are like when he's just getting started versus what they're like later. Because I believe that we open with him um, aged already on a pretty nice, more, comparatively modern train. Kind of, we imagine that he's thinking back on all of these other memories, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and but there's some great stuff. William H. Macy, as we mentioned, is one of the early moments for him, who, like, the old guy that we're talking about, that he kind of eventually finds himself becoming. But the guy who's been around and seen it all, but maybe there's a little bit of a degree of sadness, like, what are you still doing this job at your age? It seems like you only would keep doing this job at your age if you don't have anything else. And
Right.
that's sort of a feeling, and then having him become that, kind of against his will, just via the process of passage of time. Um, but we also have some moments where, like, we talked a little bit about guilt, because he has this moment where early on he's doing a different job, and this first job was a job on train tracks, and we get the feeling that part of why he maybe switched back to logging was because of the trauma from this. But he witnesses a basically like a racist assault where some of the white workers decide to just murder one of the Chinese workers for no reason other than that, apparently. And he finds himself guilt ridden afterwards, because even though he didn't initiate it and he had actually been having a friendly conversation with the guy, he did find his initial instinct when the conflict was happening to be kind of on the side of like, I'm helping these guys carry the man, but then he gets kicked away and then only watches as they carry him and throw him off a bridge. But he still nonetheless is like, I didn't initiate that. I didn't really want it. But also, when the time came, I didn't help him. And in fact, I think his instinct was to help the other guys because he's seeing a group of guys try to carry him off. And so there's maybe this like, well, maybe they know something or what. But, he just has this lingering guilt of feeling like he did the wrong thing in a moment of panic.
Yeah, I think that's an important scene because it leads to why he feels guilt later, right? Where he doesn't necessarily have as much agency in the situation, right? Like he's feeling like if I had taken control of this situation, I could have saved a man. And then that translates to if I could have been there, I could have basically redeemed myself for that by taking control of the situation and saving my family. And I like that you brought that up because one of the concerns I had first watching this movie was that it was going to be sort of a side shot opinion piece at like immigration, which the message it would have been giving, I am definitely on the side of. But I also, that's not what I was looking to watch, right?
Right.
Is
Yeah.
and it wasn't about that at all, right? It wasn't
Yeah,
about
like
the
only
mistreatment
sort
of
of in a glancing way, right?
yeah,
Like
very
it's
much just in the beginning to tell a piece of the story, but that wasn't the theme of the movie,
right.
is that, you know,
Like
these
the
Chinese immigrants are
incidents,
treated poorly, you know.
yeah, like the incident is less about how Chinese immigrants and railroad workers were treated and more about undercutting his own ability to think of himself as a good man.
Right.
Because it's one of those things where everyone would kind of like to think of themselves as a good person, but he has this one moment that he really just can't deny he's haunted by it, where he realizes, wait, maybe I'm not that great, because I had an opportunity to do something that, in hindsight would have been the right thing, and I didn't do it.
Right.
But I think it's a well staged scene in the sense too, though, where we see the instinct. Not that I'm trying to like defend what he does, because I don't think that's what the movie wants either, but
Mm-mm.
to just really show he's kind of confused. He's acting on impulse. There's not really a lot of intentionality in anything that he's doing. It's like a situation is developing around him very fast, and he kind of impulsively chooses one side for a moment and then is kind of kicked back out of the ability to participate in the incident, right?
Right.
But nonetheless, he can't help but recognize that his first instinct was, in hindsight, not the one that he wishes he might have done.
Right.
And so, but like, and so that's just part of this whole thing too. And it kind of ties into this movie telling the story of this guy, like a long period in this guy's life where we're kind of flashing on the moments that stand out to him in his memory. Because most of his life, he reckons by towards the end, is that he spent a lot of time doing these very similar kinds of logging jobs that, turns out when you just keep doing stuff like that, it ends up filling up all your time. And you wonder if that was the way that you were happy you spent it, or it's complicated.
It is. So,
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the movie's good. I liked it. I think it's earned its nominations. I think I think out of the screenplay, um, let's see, where's these nominations? Because I've seen all of the nominated films for both original and adapted screenplay, and it's nominated in adapted screenplay. personally, I would probably put it at 5 out of those 5, but I don't hate that it's got that 5th place, you know. But yeah, like, so I think it's good. I can envision people for whom, and I know some who felt like this one was really powerful for them. But yeah, for me, it was just like, yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. I feel like its strongest nomination is cinematography.
Yeah, I agree.
I felt like even just watching on my TV, like it just every scene felt like a tapestry, right? Like
Hmm.
it was very easy to watch, and that kind of worked. And it kind of worked. It definitely worked for the movie because what it's trying to do is have you think a lot about what's going on, and it kind of leaves you in these sort of picturesque
Hmm.
lingers on these scenes where you can be like thinking about what just happened.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely.
um, so I gave you a warning. I have to go accept this delivery really fast.
Okay. No
Really
problem. No
quick.
problem.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will switch over to Marty Supreme and just re-list what the nominated categories it received are. Marty Supreme received 9 nominations, and that includes Best Casting, which is again the new category this year. Uh, and I have to scroll through this because I don't just have it like ready to read off of. Also, Best Costume Design, Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Score. No, it's not Best Original Score, which I want to touch back on in a moment. And then Best Original Screenplay, Best Best Actor for Timothy Chalamet, Best Director for Josh Safdie, and of course Best Picture. And I think I said them all. I might have missed one again because my spreadsheet here is not actually optimized for reading off the categories in that way. But yeah, so 9 direct nominations this year, which makes it tied with Sentimental Value and Frankenstein, which also both received 9 nominations. And as of course we've already talked about, Sinners and One Battle After Another, which received 16 and 13 nominations respectively. But yes, Marty Supreme is definitely one where I feel like I have a lot to say about it. So I'm looking forward to getting into that as I vamp while Mike is able to deal with this special delivery. I think one of the other elements of Train Dreams that I think we can just kind of say a little more about in terms of cinematography, just the landscape. You know, we get a lot of sort of golden hour of these beautiful forested areas, and I think just the appreciation of the natural scenery is part of it too, because we talked a little bit about maybe the darker sides of him spending so much of his life on these sorts of jobs, but that leaves out the kind of intangible appreciation of the landscape that he has, that is simultaneously he absolutely kind of loves and respects the land, but there's a little bit of a splinter of darkness in that too, because of course what is his job is to cut down all those beautiful trees. So, and
Yep.
it's one of those too where there's a little bit of a running theme of like early on there's this sort of feeling like, well, there's so many trees, I mean, you could work for 100 years and not cut them all down. And but then as you get older you start realizing, oh well, you can make more of a dent than you might think. So in any case, yes, so that's just a little bit more on Train Dreams. But now, Marty Supreme, 9 nominations. So this is a this is
Different
a
theme.
yeah, this is a Josh Safdie movie. He's the director. He is one of the 2 Safdie brothers who have previously directed movies together. The other Safdie brother directed The Smashing Machine, which is actually a movie that I felt like didn't get a huge reception when it first came out, but I've been hearing people come back around on it, so I think I might want to watch that one. In particular, saying that The Rock is actually really great in it. He certainly looks very different. But in any case, have you seen any of the previous Safdie brothers movies? Uncut Gems would probably be the one if you've seen any of them.
I haven't seen that. I've heard that's a good movie, but I have not watched it.
It is. I think it's very good in the ways that this movie is, in the sense that what it's best at is this high wire act of maintaining a kind of crazy level of tension and just maintaining that for a whole runtime.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's similar plot-wise in the sense that it's about a character in Uncut Gems played by Adam Sandler who has a dream but also creates a lot of his own problems. He's a fairly self-destructive person because he's got these big dreams that are kind of not very practical, and he is just sort of constantly preventing himself from building up any kind of a more solid foundation to stand on. Whereas, of course, we've got Marty in Marty Supreme, who dreams of being the greatest in the world at ping pong at the same time that ping pong becomes the greatest sport in the world, so he thinks, as it will. It's an interesting dilemma in the sense that we know from knowing real history that Marty is basically wrong about what's going to happen with ping pong. He thinks it's on the threshold of becoming this huge international thing, when in fact he is kind of already at what is more or less the peak of ping pong as this international sport. Not that people don't still play it, but it doesn't ever become the sort of thing that he's envisioning it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, when people have asked me what Uncut Gems was like, I said stressful. And I think that this movie is similar in that way. Like it's exciting. It's got a lot of stuff going on in it, but it is very stressful to watch.
Yes, I would agree with that. I know we'll get to this, but I I think Timothy Chalamet is awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
And this, I don't want to say this movie doesn't work without him, but it helps with the stress because like he's so charismatic, which is the point, right? Like you have this self-destructive, ambitious guy who's wrong about everything, doing a lot, bringing everything on himself, but you're like kind of still on his side. You're on his side, but you're on his side because at least for me, you just really like Timothy Chalamet, right?
Yeah,
Like
well,
just
yeah, it's funny because I just rewatched Rushmore for the first time in a long time because I got a box set of Wes Anderson movies. And so I bring it up just because in some ways Max Fisher, the Jason Schwartzman character in Rushmore, is a little bit like Marty in the sense that he's got these big dreams, these big ambitions. And so he's always doing a million things at once, and a lot of them he can do pretty well. But things like being able to pass your classes at school, and things like not getting arrested, things like, do I actually have permission to do this big project I'm envisioning? He does not care about those things, and so puts no effort into them, and therefore frequently finds his grand designs falling apart because he can't take care of the practical stuff.
Right.
And yet you see at the same time, you see that sort of genius energy in him, and you are kind of rooting for him, even as you're frequently sort of rooting for him against him, if that makes sense. right? You were constantly telling Marty in Marty Supreme, I'm on your side, man, but boy, you're really bringing this problem on yourself right now. You are making this so much worse than it needed to be. You're not you're undermining your own possibilities and potential here because you can't let certain little things go.
Right.
Yes. So basic premise of Marty Supreme is it's taking place in the 50s, I think. Um, it's or is it late 40s? It's like post World War II. But we've got this
It's in the early 50s, I think.
yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so. Yeah. So in any case, we've got this character named Marty, played by Timothy Chalamet, who is very, very good at ping pong. You could argue, is he the best in the world? Well, how do you measure that, right? That's kind of important to the plot of the movie. Is like, well, how do you even define best in the world? And he believes not only that he is going to be able to prove himself as the best in the world, but that ping pong itself is going to become this huge international phenomenon. It will become bigger than baseball, bigger than football, whatever. And that he is not only going to be the best as an athlete, but also in on the ground floor of what is going to be this big industry, right? And so he is constantly spilling these grand dreams to everybody who will listen, as he is usually like asking them for money or for some other kind of support to justify him traveling around the world to play in ping pong tournaments at the same time that everyone else is kind of saying, can you finish your shift at the shoe store though? Because no one really believes that he has what it takes, even if he's really good at ping pong. He's just the sort of person who is always robbing Peter to pay Paul, sort of, to use the phrase, right? He is uh, always got a scam of one kind or another going, and his dream is so potent in his own mind that he is willing to sacrifice literally anything else in his life to achieve it, without even really ever questioning that, even as he frequently finds that that exact behavior is often what is preventing him from achieving his actual goals, because he is not willing to start small and build and engage in trust and have people who will actually support him and work with him, because he will throw anybody and everybody under the bus at the first time that it seems like it will benefit him, even for the next 5 minutes.
Right.
And so we have a lot of the various people in his life that he kind of first entrances by just the sheer power of his dream and his ambition and his charisma, and people can't help but be a little charmed by that. And then he will eventually destroy any sort of positive relationship he has with them, almost without exception. And even the exceptions are complicated. But we watch him build to a big climactic ping pong match, right? You know, that's kind of what everything's still structured along. But we watch him just burning every single bridge and every single relationship he's got in the world in order to get to that point, only for that point to be simultaneously the catharsis of him believing he has proven himself by his own measure to be the best in the world as he sees it, at the cost of basically anything else that could come after that.
Right. I mean, I feel like just even that climactic scene is so almost hollow,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Because
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
so yeah, so anyway, it builds to this point where like all of what he's trying to do is get to the world championships to prove that he's the best.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember why he ended up with a fine.
Well, so
Oh,
what? Yeah.
because he went to the Ritz Carlton.
Basically, yeah. So the
Yeah,
first big tournament he goes to, he discovers that the tournament is only putting competitors like him into these like small shared hotel
like
rooms
barracks,
that he
basically.
yeah
Yeah.
that he feels is not befitting his station, and that he's gonna win, right? And so therefore he'll have the prize money to then retroactively pay for the very nice hotel room that he checks himself into, trying to pay, send the bill to the tournament folks,
Right.
which basically does not endear him to the people who run international ping pong. Dear Marty, these are the people you don't want to hate you and think you're annoying and a menace. And then, of course, he doesn't win with so one of the things that I guess I didn't mean to cut you off, because that is why he is actually not invited to the world championship of ping pong, but has an opportunity to play who he thinks would be his opponent in the finals if he were in the tournament, in an
But
exhibition match. Yeah.
in the exhibition match, they want him to throw it
Right.
because it will make their company look better for Japanese audiences, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the only way he can get to Japan is to take the money to throw the match.
Mm-hmm.
So he ends up doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
then when they're trying to do this funny thing where he has to like kiss a pig for losing
Mm-hmm.
the match,
Yeah.
he loses his mind and
Mm-hmm. Well,
says it
yeah.
was a sham. Like he like I can beat him, all of this. And
Mm-hmm.
so he goes into his third match with Endo,
Mm-hmm.
the Japanese player who beat him legitimately in the one where he was staying in the
Yeah.
big hotel, beat him when he had to throw the match, and then he like has this cathartic moment for only him
Yeah. Like,
where he
everybody else
wins.
is angry with him.
Yeah.
Because, like, so part of it too is that, like, the extreme lengths of humiliation that the throne match is trying to inflict on him is partly because, in order to even get there, he basically had to accept this money to throw the match from a guy who actively hates his guts and is looking to inflict as much pain and suffering as he can on him. He's arranged for him to do extra embarrassing things and to surprise him in that, because he's basically an asshole.
Right.
Yeah. So, and also maybe a vampire. I so this is a total tangent because it is just like almost a throwaway line in the movie. One of the characters, this rich guy that we're talking about, who is the husband of the Gwyneth Paltrow character, who is an actress that Marty briefly has uh, a strange sort of affair with, because he is incapable of having any kind of a normal interaction with another human being. But the the guy is basically trying to tell him, listen, there is absolutely nothing that you can do to me, because my level of power and money and experience and contacts make me capable of withstanding any assault that you could possibly try to inflict on me. And so I'm going to be the one with the last laugh no matter what you do, is basically what the guy's trying to say. But the way he says it is by basically claiming he's a vampire. And what I love about the movie is that he basically says it with a straight face, and that's never like undercut. Now, I'm not saying that the movie or the character is actually claiming that he's a vampire, but if they were to claim that, they wouldn't have done that line differently. You know what I mean? It's like he's not using it like a metaphor. He is saying it's true. And I think that's fun. It's just a moment of weirdness.
Yes. The other interesting part about that character
Mm-hmm.
is that it's played by Kevin O'Leary, who is one of the members of of Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like and he has a character that he plays on there
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like, how Shark Tank works, right? Like the business pitches
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So he's not an actual actor. That's like, but he plays this character on Shark
Mm-hmm.
Tank that is also very much like this, right? And
Yeah.
so they've got a lot of funny things going on with that, with
Mm-hmm.
him like trying to humiliate Marty. But
Yeah.
yeah, the final point though that I was trying to make though is that, like, yes, Marty wins in the end,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an exhibition rematch for his exhibition throne match that means nothing. Like
Right.
it's a completely hollow victory.
Yeah.
And
And he remains banned from the their actual tournament.
right. And he's not now getting paid by the guy whose wife he's sleeping with.
Yeah.
So, you know,
The
yes,
only
there's a
people who,
pseudo
yeah.
redemptive piece where, like, the American soldiers who were
Mm-hmm.
in Japan, like, saw him and were like,
Yeah.
were patriotic. So they gave him a ride home.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, and then he reunites with his mother and his
Yeah.
wife, or not wife, but his
Yeah.
son and baby mama.
There's a
Like, yeah,
whole, yeah, there's a whole thing there. It's worth noting that all of the stuff that we've just described is still only about a third of this movie because there is so much more stuff going
yes.
on. The ping pong stuff, is always kind of underpinning everything because that's what he's dreaming about. It's what he's trying to make happen. But a whole lot of the actual runtime is also spent with him just like running around in New York trying to deal with his boss at this shoe store who's basically saying, like, on the rare occasion that you actually pay any attention to this job at all, makes me think you would actually be good at it if you would just stay doing that instead of always trying to find a way to use it to launch your ping pong career. And so that's the only reason he hasn't been fired. But at one point later, of course, he is
Well, he's also
literally,
related to his boss. Like,
yeah,
I think his boss is his uncle, which is
yeah.
also part of the reason he's not getting fired from this job, that he's like not
Well,
doing well.
and yes,
Like,
and so we get to the point where he is literally holding a gun on the guy who is able to open the safe for him so that he can take the money that he is technically owed, as far as we can tell from Marty. Like, Marty is like owed this money and his boss is trying to keep the money from him because he knows that Marty is just going to use it to fly across the world to play ping pong. But he basically pulls a gun on this other employee and is basically saying, like, the implication is like, I'm not going to shoot you, but I'm holding the gun on you for real so that you can say that I did, so that you won't get blamed for for this. But I am holding the gun on you and I am saying, yes, give me the money. And so there's that, and that's why he gets arrested later. But it's also a whole thing where it's so obvious that the cop is literally only there at the uncle's behest, as like a threat, except that Marty calls the bluff and then has to go out his window. And then we also have the girl that is kind of like maybe his girlfriend, except she's also
well, married.
married. And that there's a lot of we could mention the opening credits are are of sperm traveling to impregnate an egg, because we understand that this is how Marty has conceived a child with this woman, and so their relationship is very much one of those things where it's like, maybe they deserve each other, or at the very least, it's good that they're together so that they will take each other off the market for the benefit of everybody else in the world. That sort of thing. Because like there's just the ongoing stuff about the husband kind of finding out what's going on, and this is just a constant thing of Marty is always got this stuff boiling. He must just not have the same sort of brain chemistry that other people in the world do, because he has just got every single plate in his life is spinning constantly, unless it's actually actively falling, in which case he's setting up new plates, and he and uh, we also have the whole running bit where, because he doesn't have this other money, he's going to try to hustle money with an old friend, where they literally hustle ping pong. They've got this whole scheme where they go out into the middle of nowhere, where like there's a bowling alley where people are playing ping pong, and he hustles everyone for money, but then they get um, found out, and a gas station explodes as a result of one of these encounters. And then there's the whole bit where he's trying to stay in the hotel. Don't use the shower. Does that mean you're literally not supposed to actually stand in the tub at all? Well, apparently, because it falls through the floor, which can't be Marty's fault, except that he didn't follow the instructions from the owner. But now he's responsible for this guy who's maybe in the mafia and has an injured dog now. But the guy, and it's just like all of this stuff is just happening constantly.
Yeah.
And so that is why this movie, why I tell people this movie is stressful, is because it's just this stuff. It's nonstop with this stuff, because this is how Marty lives his life. We haven't even talked about Gwyneth Paltrow yet.
The other married woman
Yes.
he has an affair with it, which
Mm-hmm.
is why the guy's trying to humiliate him at the end.
Yes. Yes. And yet another one of those tipping point moments where, like, so he sees her at the nice hotel where he has checked himself into out while at the tournament, and he basically charms her by virtue of his, his unbeatable attitude, and the fact that he did technically have his picture in the paper, and gets you know like, it's unclear in our mind, I think, how much part of his wanting to have a relationship with her is A, about his own sense of status, and B, about maybe helping him with his ping pong dream, versus any question of actually really genuinely wanting a relationship with her. Um, but also, we can kind of imagine for Marty, it would literally never even occur to him to ask that question. Right? Like, Marty does what Marty does. It's like the exchange where someone just says, "It's like, like, but what if you lose?" And he just says, like, that does not even enter my consciousness. And then you get the moment later where she has decided to give him one of these special anniversary present diamond necklaces she has, that will give him enough money to fly to Japan to be in this tournament, which we actually know in a separate subplot he's still banned from attending and has not got a plan for how to get past that. But we have this moment where he's literally got the necklace in his hand. He could walk away and have the money to go to Japan, except he decides to then double down by saying, "Oh, and also, let me now try to have sex in public in Central Park with this famous actress," at which point they get caught by the cops, and then everything spirals out again because he cannot stop.
Right.
Yes. So, is this movie good?
I enjoyed this movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I wasn't moved by this movie. I liked watching it. I
Mm-hmm.
was entertained. Like I think I said earlier, the fact that Marty is played by Timothy Chalamet
Mm-hmm.
really helps this movie, which
Yeah.
is why I'm a huge fan of his nomination
Mm-hmm.
in particular. I mean, obviously, it has other nominations that we can go
Yeah.
through, but
Yeah. Yeah.
his in particular, like,
Mm-hmm.
he makes this movie work.
I think he might win. And it's a stacked category this year, but I think he might win.
Yeah, I mean, I have it. I went into our document and put what the gambling favorites were, and
Oh yeah.
he is the gambling favorite.
Yeah. I think that he might win, even as Marty Supreme doesn't win many of the other categories it's nominated for.
I think this may, again, by betting odds, this may be its only win, would be
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And
Um Yeah.
And it makes sense though, because he
Mhm.
is like he just draws you in, right?
Mhm.
Like he's so compelling. And when I say charismatic, I mean in like the positive way. Like
Yeah.
it's not a false charisma, right? Like there's
Mhm.
just this like you just want to like the guy. You want
Yeah.
things to go well for him and you feel bad that they're not. And it's what makes the movie work, right? Because
Yeah. I just want to kind of like reiterate the turn of phrase that like came to me earlier of just saying like often you are rooting for him against him because like you want him to do well and yet you watch him constantly making these terrible decisions that will undermine his own chances of success, and it's this exciting but frustrating thing of wanting him to succeed but also realizing that his own flaws are making that very difficult.
yes. So, but I mean, you're wrapped into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah,
it's not, and I'm not saying there's not anybody else that could have pulled this off, but
it would
like
have been very different with someone else for sure.
it would have been different with somebody else. With him in the role,
Mm-hmm.
like you're engaged and you're entertained the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
right? It does this movie leave me with some sort of sense of message or no, not really,
Yeah.
right? Like it has a pretty hollow moral core, right? You
Yeah.
know, like
I think it's possible part of him having a good chance for winning this time is of course like primarily due to him being excellent in this film, but I think there's maybe also a little bit of a it's his turn sort of thing, right?
uh-huh.
Like he has had several nominations but hasn't won yet, you
Yeah,
know. So I think that there might be an element of that too. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he wins. But like you said, I think it might end up being the movie's only win, just because I think either Sinners or One Battle or is probably going to take most of the others where they share
right.
uh, nominations. But yeah, so of course just talking about some of the other categories. Best Picture, of course. Best Director for Josh Safdie, and then yeah, so Best Actor we talked about. I don't think it had any of the other acting categories, but Best Original Screenplay, where it's up against Blue Moon and Sinners and Sentimental Value, and It Was Just an Accident, which is also incredible. So like that's a stacked category as well. I mean, it's a good screenplay for sure. I mean,
It is.
it takes the screenplay to create this level of contained chaos with so little. It's a very unconventional movie in terms of its tone because like we keep saying stressful and this tension. Most movies will have these scenes of tension and suspense and excitement, and then it relaxes for a while before you build up to another intense scene. This one just kind of keeps going. You don't have much time downtime from the chaos in this movie. Um, but so yes, screenplay, and then I noted this when I was listing them earlier. Not nominated for best original score, which I think is actually maybe kind of a shame because it actually has a great original score on top of an incredibly eclectic set of needle drops from both the 50s and the 1980s.
Yep.
And one of the reasons I've heard for the choice of a lot of the really heavy synthy 80s songs is that apparently in some of the earlier stages of the production, part of the idea was that you're also going to see Marty 30 years later in the 80s.
Mm.
Um, that they eventually decided to kind of not do that, but that kind of idea was sort of part of the whole thematic conception for long enough that they just kept the 80s music around, which I think is great. I mean, I love all that synthy 80s stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it's got a great score too. So I recommend people check that out, even though it's not one of the nominated ones. And then, of course, production design. We've got a lot of, great time period replication. And of course, we get all of these, like these crazy, like back alley ping pong halls and, you know, out in the middle of nowhere gas stations. And then, of course, these big tournaments in international tournaments, lots of great production design, and of course, all of the 1950s New York stuff. Best cinematography, best costume design, and best casting, I think was best editing and best casting. Yeah. So lots of things that the movie is certainly great at. But it's also up against lots of other movies that are great at those things. Actually, I wonder if it might win casting because there is such a
I was going to say
plethora
that
of guys in this movie.
it yes, I was thinking that might be its other shot, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
Um, Again, it's going against some heavyweights,
Oh, sure. Yeah,
but
definitely.
this is another place where it's really good because, like you pointed out, like obviously Timothy Chalamet is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't get any of the other uh nominations, but
Mm-hmm.
it's because everybody else is so secondary to him,
Yeah. Well,
right?
and it's
Like,
just there's such an
but they
ensemble
played
that
it.
surrounds him,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, and they all play to it perfectly.
yeah, like there's so many different like every even tertiary character that has even a single line in this movie is played by someone interesting. There are no characters in this entire movie that is just, yes, this is some random guy who is there only to say an expository line and move the scene forward. It's like everybody is specific in some interesting way.
Hmm.
And that's great stuff. But then, of course, best casting, it's also up against Sinners, which also has an incredible cast. It's up against One Battle After Another, which has got an incredible cast. It's got up against Secret Agent, which has an incredible cast, and Hamnet, which I absolutely love. And I think it's less of a big ensemble, but it has a smaller number of really key actors that it gets just right, including one very specific um, element that I won't actually say until we're maybe ready to talk about the movie in spoilers, because there's an element that is really a feat of casting, but to even get into it is potentially spoilery. So I will leave it for now. But yeah, the great cast for sure. And then editing, as we talked about, maintaining the level of tension that this movie does is going to be, editing does that, right?
Yep.
Editing is so important for that. Uh, I guess anything else we want to touch on? Costume design. I mean, I
I mean,
think it's
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 serviceable. Yeah,
period piece stuff, right?
yeah.
I
It's
think
not distracting.
I
Yeah,
mean,
with yeah.
it's good, but it's up against Sinners and Hamnet and Frankenstein and Avatar: Fire and Ash. Um, so I don't think I would vote for Marty Supreme as costumes, even though the costumes are fine. But yeah, and then it's like, but yeah, it's a strong year in so many of the other categories that it's nominated in. But yeah, Timothy Chalamet is the one where it's like even him up against like Leonardo DiCaprio and Ethan Hawke and Michael B. Jordan, who are all great. And Wagner Moura, I think I don't remember if I said this on the podcast because we haven't really talked about The Secret Agent, but he is a role in that movie where I knew he was nominated when I went to see the movie, and so as I was watching, I sort of kept like waiting for like where's the Oscar moment, like where's the scene that justifies why he's in this, or not in the movie, but like why is he nominated? And I realized I kind of got to the end without there being like a standout scene in that way. But what is unambiguously true is that the guy feels like a movie star. He just anchors the movie and is just like, yeah, I want to keep watching him in more stuff. Put him in more movies. And so I kind of felt like him being someone that not that many people knew about at all and just coming out of it an undeniable movie star. That's, I think, where that nomination's coming from. He also gets to play a double role, which is, it's fun, but also if we were going to give an Oscar for that, we would give it to Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a movie that, so just to like sum up, Marty Supreme, I think, is a good movie, maybe even a great movie, but it's such a very specific tone that I sort of feel like it's not one that I just would casually recommend to everybody, because I think that there are a lot of people who would just find it so stressful that it would not be fun to watch for them.
Agreed.
So. I know I saw it with my dad and my brother in the theater, and they picked it. We had a couple to choose from, and that was the one that they picked. And I told them what Uncut Gems was like, and sure enough, I think they did not have as good a time as I did. They, nearly had like contact panic attacks. Anyway, so I think then. Let's maybe just sum up by talking a little bit more about like what other movies so there's a couple left that we've both seen but haven't just jumped into yet that we could still wrap up at some point, which includes Elio and Weapons, and there was another that I'm forgetting. But what are the movies that you feel like you are trying to still get in there before the awards?
So I think I told you I've watched part of Hamnet, and I will finish that.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, I've also started and will finish. I have a 9-month-old for anybody who's new to this. So those are my for sure's.
So the other Best Picture nominees would include Begonia, The Secret Agent, and Sentimental Value.
Sentimental Value is one I'm not committing to watching, but like I feel like that has enough juice in a number of categories that it's worth making an attempt.
Yeah, it's from the same director who did The Worst Person in the World a few years back, which was again not like a huge movie, but it was very good.
Begonia's got a decent amount of nominations, but
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
That's kind of a prickly movie. Like, I think it's good, but it's another one of those where it's like that's not an everybody recommendation.
Right.
That's a like, well, how do you feel about Yorgos Lanthimos? And then there's actually I feel like, I don't know if it's just a meme, like someone has added the language, or if it was really in The Simpsons, but there's a meme I've seen where it shows Ned Flanders saying, "Oh, I love the movies of Yorgos Lanthimos, except for what he makes me see and how they make me feel." Which is fair. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But yeah, Hamnet and Frankenstein are certainly big ones.
Yeah, I'll commit to those. But
Okay.
yeah.
Another one that I would like to encourage you to check out, and it should be relatively easy to watch on streaming, is Blue Moon, which is a Richard Linklater movie with Ethan Hawke. And it is about 1950s Broadway theater, more or less, but it's more specifically adjacent to that because it's about a guy who works in it. It's about a real guy. If you've heard of Gilbert and Sullivan, which a lot of people have, or no, excuse me, not Gilbert and Sullivan, but Rodgers and Hammerstein. A lot of people have heard of that writing duo, right? Well, before working with Hammerstein, Rodgers worked with Hart, and it was Rodgers and Hart, and they wrote a whole lot of stuff, including a lot of famous songs, including, for example, Blue Moon. But Rodgers got his first biggest success of his career so far when he switched writing partners and started working with Hammerstein instead. And so this movie is about Roger Hart on the night that Oklahoma, the first musical that Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote together, is premiering. And so he's got this complicated feeling of like, well, I'm happy for my friend, but a little bit bitter that he's getting his biggest success ever when he chose to work with someone other than me. And very complicated feelings about it. And Ethan Hawke is in that role, and it's great. I want to encourage people to watch that one.
Nice. I'll give one quick follow up on a conversation that we had last time because we talked about K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yep.
So watched that with my wife, and she was like, we finished it. Because I don't think we talked about her reaction to it.
I don't think so.
No. She was like, I really wanted to not like that movie. And I really liked that movie. She's like, it's so good. Like, like when they're talking, when they're singing about the scars, like it's like it's talking about the scars that we have. And I was like, wow, like, all right. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like I get that reaction in the sense that, like, I watched it when it was a little earlier on before it had become quite the phenomena because I'm a mark for these kinds of movies. But once a movie has become a big phenomenon like that, there's often a kind of an instinctive backlash against it, right? Especially when it's big with kids, it's like, oh, well, the kids like it, but kids are dumb. What are they, it's probably stupid. Like maybe it's good for kids or whatever. And there's an instinctive eye roll that's easy to sort of develop when something has hit it huge the way that movie has, right? And so I can kind of get that. But then the movie is just so crowd pleasing, right? Like it's just so fun. It's just wants to make you happy, and it's very good at doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, and the thing is, we didn't really even get into it. It's like it's this. But what I was saying about it at the time was, it's like if we really wanted to say, like, let's hold the script to an extremely high standard and really approach it from a literary criticism sort of perspective, like, are there problems we could find with it? Well, yeah, I think probably it's got maybe a movie and a half worth of story so that not everything can get as much attention as it deserves. Like, what's the deal with Rumi's parents, right? We could maybe get more stuff with Celine. We could get maybe more than just half of a character trait that gets, questioned and then resolved for Zoe and, Mira, the red-haired one, and it's like, so there's like little things, just like, some of that could have maybe been better developed, but it's just so much fun. You're having such a good time. The songs are so fun. It's just like, why are you complaining? Nobody's complaining. You shouldn't complain. You should have fun because it's fun.
So now when like our daughter who hasn't watched the movie and doesn't watch movies, but like when she's in her like kind of bounce phase, like we'll play the like up, it's our moment.
Yeah.
Like my wife will like play that song. Like she'll because it's a fun song. It's like it's energetic. Our daughter loves it. She has no idea what it's tied to, but yeah. So I thought that was
I think I said this, but I made my mom and my half sister watch it on our trip to Glacier National Park when we were in the hotel, and they were both kind of rolling their eyes when I insisted that we watch it, and then we were all humming the songs for the rest of the week. So, yeah. Anyway, so I think that's where we'll maybe leave it for tonight. Thank you everybody for listening and or watching. We will be back for more Oscar movies before the awards happen. I believe they are scheduled for the 22nd. I believe that's right. So that's 2 weeks.
2 weeks from today, whatever
2 weeks
it is.
from today, yes. So in the meantime, go watch good movies, and then we'll be back to talk about them.
Sounds good. All right.